I just started it. Let me know if you see it.
Nope, waiting for the host to start the webinar.
Let me call Robbie real quick because it should be working. Let me call.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, Rich.
Sorry about the technical difficulties. So
That's okay. We'll have everybody else coming in.
we are live. So we have a couple of attendees that have crept in already. So to the attendees that are on, we're getting our collective, you know what, together here. And
Good afternoon.
hello. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
It's proof we are real people. It's not AI, because why would AI be this bad, you know?
So true. This is not a deep fake. There's no way a deep fake can do this.
I've been making a lot of deep fake jokes about Rob lately that he doesn't even exist. And Robbie's like in the laboratory, you know, just creating holographs. And, but we'll see. My suspicions may be realized one day.
A little weekend at Bernie's never hurt anybody, right?
So true.
Too funny. Rob should be coming on any moment.
Okay.
And as your shirt says, relax.
Frankie says relax. Right. Frankie says relax.
Rob, are you old enough? I mean, Rich, are you old enough to know all about Frankie Says Relax?
Well, this is Frankie Lindor. Is there another? I don't know. Is there another origin to this statement? Oh man,
it's an early 80s reference.
Okay,
yeah.
I was born in '77, so it's just a tad before my time.
It's just a touch.
What is the reference?
There was a band called Frankie Goes to Hollywood, and it was lyrics.
There you go.
Doug Matthews is so disappointed in me right now.
Someone's already chiming in on the chat. Thank you, Doug.
I know. As it should be, yeah.
Well, let's see if we can come up with some other obscure artists that you don't know about in the interim. Let's see. Duran Duran.
Duran Duran was I was into them actually when I was, 9, 10, like first start listening to music.
Yeah, yeah. I saw
Okay,
them sometimes.
first hit by Duran Duran.
Everybody wants to rule the world.
No, that's the wrong band.
Is it? Who sings that? I'm off to a bad
Tears
start.
for
That was
no.
Tears for Fears.
Tears for Fears.
Tears for
Yes.
Fears.
Church
Yes.
from you.
Come on, Hungry Like the Wolf. First hit.
Hungry like the
Oh, was
wolf.
that one? Okay, I remember that. I remember having to stay up late, like what was it called? Not midnight videos, but come on, somebody else old in the chat can tell us, right?
Older.
Older. Old. What's it called? I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, staying up to watch that.
I remember MTV. That was the best.
MTV. Oh my God, no. It was that, yeah, my youth. It was it was just everything. I mean, it was the coolest thing in the world for a few years, longer than a few years, I guess.
Fantastic.
And then it went to all reality shows and no music anymore. And then
Right.
it kind of disappeared and died off. So
Yeah.
It was one way to
Julie
see
Brown.
artists without going to the
Yes.
concerts.
Downtown Julie Brown, the face of MTV, and I guess the end, when they were big through music, but then she was still a star on the non-music portion of MTV. So
That's right.
Alan Hunter, all Nina Blackwood. Yep. All
Yeah.
of them.
all right, well, Rob is trying to get into the meeting, so hopefully he'll be able to do that. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm Rich Swerbinsky with Downward and Upward Consulting. This is The Big Picture, and this week, some special guests. Really, really pleased this week to be joined by the co-founders of the CapitalW Collective, Amy Creason, Pat Peters, and Leslie Winnick. It's good to see you, and thank you so much for joining us. Excited to learn more about your group, what you're looking to do with it, how people can contribute, and really, really excited to have you guys on the show.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for inviting us, Rich. We're glad to be here. And thank you everybody for tuning in that's live. Or if you're going to be looking at this later, we would love for you to make this interactive today. Ask us some questions. We're not afraid. We'll answer anything. But also, if you're watching this on a replay, hit us up on LinkedIn. We're out there at capital W, all smashed together, space collective, and send us a message. We'd love to chat with you and learn more how we might serve you.
Super cool to see this group gaining momentum and yeah, just getting your message out there, and hopefully we can help you do that today here on the show. So and this is and there he is. So Rob, good to see you. Getting his audio.
Or maybe it's not really Rob. Maybe it is AI and it's deep.
It is me.
Oh,
We were talking about AI deepfakes. I was talking about my long-held suspicions that Robbie's in the laboratory some days and he's creating different versions of you that are dispersed all across America.
Yeah.
That's a horrifying thought, Rich.
Well, with that, this is The Big Picture, and I've already introduced our guest and looking forward to getting into more about the Capital W. But Rob, we start with what we think is the biggest story every week in the mortgage industry, and it's rates right now. And I prepared to come into this segment of the show. I thought it was great drop in rates, and everybody's going hog wild, and refis are going to start flying. Then we get, if you ever needed more evidence that the financial markets are trading off jobs news right now, we get a jobless claims report this morning that's just barely better than expected. 240K expected. I think it comes in at 233. And the Dow Jones is up 700 points. The 10 years back up over 4%. 30-year fixed rates from 6.3, 6.4 to 6.6, 6.7. Poof. And any words of wisdom, Rob, for everybody that's just hanging on to these interest rate moves, every move by the balance here?
I calmer heads, I like to think, prevail. And so much of this is being driven by greed. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It just doesn't make any sense. The I mean, are we really going to have this kind of volatility until September 18th? I sure hope not. And I think after Friday's number, folks are on edge, and the financial press doesn't help. Rich, if you tune into Bloomberg, which I listen to in the morning in the radio, or CNBC, especially with all the bright colors and lights, and every tick of the Dow or the S&P is doing something. It doesn't help. The Federal Reserve doesn't act because of disappointed stock market investors. And the stock market is not the economy. And to have a big reaction to weekly news like this just doesn't make any sense to me. And I think if you talk to the average capital market schmo, and I'll throw myself in the schmo camp, just take away the volatility. We just, rates are going to go up gradually, down gradually, fine. We can deal with it. It's this volatility that screws everybody up. And not only that, but you had people trying to renegotiate locks on loans that weren't even submitted to underwriting on Monday and Tuesday. And now rates have come back up a little bit. And so I don't know, all over the place. But I mean, this kind of volatility certainly doesn't help originators who are trying to help their clients get a home.
Well, and
So-
Rob, I'd also, since you and I are a little bit longer in the tooth, doesn't the more stringent compliance requirements doesn't allow loan officers like my husband, the former loan officer back in the day, who would ride around with what we called the trunk loans, the loan applications that were sitting around in his trunk, as he was, able to help play the market a little bit for his clients, right? So, if you have a loan, you have a loan these days. And the job of each mortgage company is to ensure that there are appropriate lock policies and, renegotiation policies if warranted. But every time you renegotiate, you're losing a couple more bucks for the company.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
good segue, because, our guests today, all very accomplished capital markets professionals. And if you could tell us, CapitalW Collective, what is it and why'd you start it?
Yeah, I think I'll jump in. So CapitalW is a 501c3. We're incorporated in California. So we're a nonprofit, very important from day one. And it was a grassroots movement by the three of us, the three co-founders, to bring more inclusion, more diversity into mortgage capital markets. It's a volunteer operation. We're doing this as an important side hustle. But why did we want to do it? We wanted to do it because we saw white space and we saw an opportunity. We saw that businesses who better represent the demographic of the communities in which they work are performing better. We saw that we felt better when we gave back through mentorship, through education, through collaboration. And truthfully, we're at a point in our careers where we wanted to see that we could make a lasting imprint and bring a lot of people along with us. So the good news is, right when we started as individuals, corporations jumped on right away with us, such as Mortgage Capital Trading and Agile Trading Technologies. And soon we'll have some news about other corporate sponsors, and we want to talk about that today as well. But this is not an us operation anymore. This is a we. And I want to thank you as well, Rich and Rob, for having us on, because we're very grateful to have your platform.
That's
I think
right.
it's great. Yeah.
And well, I was just going to jump in real quick, Rich. So yeah, we the kind of genesis story of this taking action. I'm what I call cradle capital markets person. I came into capital markets out of college just haphazardly because I needed a job. Born and raised in South Carolina, worked for Fleet Mortgage in Columbia, South Carolina, for anybody else that's that old who remembers them. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I probably worked on one of the most diverse trading desks out there in the country, in, of all places, Columbia, South Carolina. When I left in 2001, 3 out of our 4 traders were women. We had a very diverse desk of people, and that was 2001. Looking around at conferences, I really didn't feel like I saw similar diversity or changing diversity. And it's not a knock against the white guys. I've had white guys as my bosses my entire career, and have been very successful under them, being mentored by them, sponsored by them as my advocates. So anybody who's a DEI skeptic, I guess I'll use that term out there, we're not here to take all the white guys' jobs at all. What we are here to do, though, is to educate and help folks kind of like me back when I was that college kid of, I have no idea what mortgage is. I don't know what mortgage capital markets is. But I found it to be a place where I was thriving. So our goal here is to create a group where we go from the very beginning, so university outreach, college outreach, all the way through career progression, and inclusive of those that are retiring or perhaps moving on to do different things. So we're not a one size fits all. We're not a monolith as women. We are highly dependent upon our allies. And we started this with, that kind of observation in 2022 at an MCT event, and said, hey, we've got this, look at this community. Looks like we could probably get some people together and do something. So should we? Yes. Can we? Absolutely. And then the hard work began.
Awesome. Yeah, it's, mortgage industry, far too many old white guys, no offense to Rob and I. Just, I mean, and I think it's dangerous when any industry has too much of one type of person that is making the decisions, are the faces of the industry. And it's something our industry has needed for so long. And it just, Rob, what do you think? I mean, it has been such a white male dominated industry, the mortgage industry. I know how much you love controversial topics. Any thoughts on why that has come to roost?
Where do you start? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
A lot of the owners of companies, white males. I mean, that is probably,
I mean, what, boy.
It's a safe
Thin
space.
thin ice here.
Should we switch to the presidential election, Rob?
It's just us. Don't feel
Right.
comfortable.
Who are you voting for in November? I'm kidding.
Rob, do you want me to save you for a second?
No,
No.
I can break through the thin ice all on my own. But throughout my career, I would oftentimes see a white male either owning or running the company, and an incredibly competent female under that white male who was basically actually running the company. And so time and time again, it was like, oh, well, you can go talk to Frank, but if you really want to get something done, go talk to Susie. And when you walk down, or when you used to have, centralized operations, you would walk down the hall or down through all the cubicles and so forth. And in my experience, the majority of people who were actually working were female. And but for whatever reason, they weren't, starting a mortgage company. I can only think of a couple, Anita Padilla Fitzgerald, for example, with Megastar. What female is started and run a good sized mortgage bank or mortgage broker shop? So it seems like, the industry is run by people, I would argue, other than white, male, pale, frail guys. But, they're They're the ones you see at the conferences.
I've got one word, Rob, and I want you to tell me if I'm right. Networks. Do you think that that is our networks that we have? Do you think maybe that's an impediment to greater diversity? So if we know Joe and we know Mike and we know Jim, but we don't know Susan or Michelle or Laura, do you think that would be part of the impediment to or the contributing to inertia? So just keep going in the same orbit.
Yeah, you could, that could be it. I mean, it is. I mean, I hate to say that it's a good old boys network, but to some extent it is.
Right.
But I don't. I mean, I always, when I was running things, it was always, I don't care if you're male or female or yellow or purple or tan or white or black, whatever, if you can do the job and you fit in, then I'm gonna bring you on board. It is, I don't, I don't know. I don't know. Pat, what do you think?
I actually think it's a social thing as well. So if you think about in the 70s, women finally got access to a credit card. Well, that was not that long ago now that we think about that for a moment, right? And so even establishing credit to start a business, if you don't have a credit card, you've got a long runway. And so there were many hurdles in that 80s to 90s bracket for women to start their own businesses, much less say a mortgage industry on top of that. I think now is the time. The hurdles, the obstacles, I think we can tear them down, move them away, and really launch this next generation to be reflective of the communities that we serve, of the borrowers that we're helping, of even the secondary market, capital markets, and beyond. I think the opportunity is now, and we should just grab and go with it.
Couldn't agree more, Pat. And building on what you said, Rob, it's meritocracy. We're not talking about creating space for people who aren't collaborative, who don't show promise, who don't show gumption and hustle. We're talking about at Capital W, we're talking about giving people the tools they need to be seen, or if you're already in a role kicking butt, shining a spotlight on you for other people to see you and know that there's someone really cool doing great things who inspires you to be better. So it's both sides of the formula. If you can see it, you can be it. Amy saw that in her early career. I saw that at JP Morgan when I started out. That's not the norm in a lot of companies. And we want to show people that exists.
And we
If
think
you can see it, you can be it. I hadn't heard
Yep.
that before.
Certainly.
Oh yeah.
So in Capital W, like, I guess specifically the plan, come on and raise awareness, right? What we're doing here, hopefully. Talk about the issues, change people's perspective on it. But then the next level beyond that, the specific plans that the Capital W has to spotlight leading females in the cap market section. What is kind of in the hopper for you guys in the short term here?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, oh, go ahead, Pat. Go for it.
I would start off with our mission, and that is to educate, elevate, and empower women and ally, regardless of who you are in the mortgage capital market space. And we are open to anyone who is interested in just the basics behind capital markets or wants to know why those people don't share their models very nicely sometimes. And what is the secret sauce to making a basis point? There is opening the doors, if you will, and learning and understanding. This group, we want to embrace everyone and take everyone on that journey. To Leslie's point, put a spotlight on all of the people that are contributing to our industry in this space.
Yeah.
And Leslie, I'll turn it to you.
Yeah, but I see it in Amy's eyes. She wants to jump in so bad.
Oh.
So Amy, I see it. I know you that well now. You go first.
Yeah, well, yeah, my mother's nickname for me was Mouth of the South. So there's always a 100% guarantee that I want to say something. But Well, as we were, as I was mentioning at the very beginning, it's front to back. So the very beginning of a career all the way throughout it. We're looking at partnering, and we've got some conversations going on with some universities. We're partnering, education is the critical piece here. We're partnering with the MBA. So we're going to have some announcements coming out soon. We want to bring our sponsors in and help us with education. So highlighting various components of capital markets. It is a very big space. So whether we're talking about operations, we're talking about risk models, we're talking about broker dealer or investors, there's so much here to consume in terms of education. Nobody's going to do it just like that. And you may not like all of it. So I happen to have loved contract finance. I love negotiating agreements and having, some difficult conversations with opposing counsel. But not everybody likes that. Some people like to be nose down deep into models and doing that. Others like to be more on the operations and making sure that you have really efficient processes so that you don't have to hedge any longer than necessary. So we want to create an education network as well as a speakers bureau. What Leslie was mentioning, the shining the light. And through those two components, we feel like there will be this empowerment, if you will, where we can start the cycle over again with women who are now more showcased and present in the industry, especially in the capital markets space, providing that education. But anybody, a loan officer or servicing operations person, anybody can benefit from capital markets education.
Yeah. So in 3 words, it's educate, elevate, and empower. Those are our goals. We're going to have a lot of different curriculum around education. Elevate is a little more on the Speakers Bureau. Rob, one of the impediments is that people just don't know Susie and Jane, right? Or you fly around the country, you probably have more miles than George Clooney and up in the air at this point. But, when people want to put on a program, they say, who do I get on my speaker? Who's going to be on the podium with me? We're going to have the ability to have a vetted roster of people, who are capable to take that dais with you and speak on very complex topics and demystify them. And then in terms of empowerment, it's mentorship, it's collaboration, it's building extended networks beyond your own company. We've seen that especially interesting with a younger group of people out of Atlanta. I don't know what's in the water down there, y'all. That's my y'all, but keep doing it, because the people in Georgia really know how to step out of their comfort zone and build relationships and communities outside of their walls in which they work every day. And that's what we want to do. We want to span the geography and bring people together.
So can I interject?
Yeah, of course.
Please.
I'm going back to the practical question earlier on about why.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be blunt here, since it's only us gals. But even if I think of capital markets, if I think of hedging companies, I started, one of my early jobs was a partner at Tuttle and Company, Paul Tuttle. If you think of MCM, that's Dean Brown. If you think of Secondary Interactive, that was Don Brown. If you think of Flatirons, if you think of CMC, Tom Milan, a bunch of white males, even your backer, even your whatever you want to call MCT. When I think MCT, I think Curtis, Tom Farmer, and Phil, Ian in marketing. What's going on there, MCT? So I'm sure that there are women at these companies that have gone up to a certain point, but I would be hard pressed to find any hedge companies that are owned or run by females, even your backer, even MCT. And that is puzzling why that is, because as I said, when I think of a mortgage company, in fact, at one point before Robbie started doing more work for me, little tiny Chrisman LLC, all I had was females, single mom up in Oregon doing stuff, bookkeeper doing stuff, Marie doing stuff. So, I mean, I'm puzzled by when you really ask somebody, me in this case, why, I don't know why. I don't know why. And so it's a really a cool thing. And that's one of the reasons that Robbie and I wanted to meet with you guys in May in New York, is because this is novel and it needs to be done. And it needs to make people, I mean, you have certain goals and objectives, but the basic question is, how is this happen? You know, why are companies like they are? You know, it's a bigger question other than just capital markets.
Well,
You're-
and I think I have an example of a woman-led hedge advisory firm, and that was my act with Tina Friedman.
What happened to Tina?
She was all in for a solid 7 years. She was all in. At this time, I haven't reached out to her, so I don't know what her prospective future is. But I would say that she was an excellent example of a female-led hedge advisory firm. And maybe that's the issue, is nobody remembers that that was true for those 7 years. So we have some legacy work, right? Some advertising and historical knowledge that we need to keep in front of us as well. But to your point, Rob, we need to dig deep, right? What is it? The Simon, he says, you know, learn your 5 whys. Well, maybe this is a chance to do our 5 whys.
Yeah, and I think just to reframe here a little bit. So we're capital markets is a STEM intensive industry, or part of the industry, right? And we can take a look around at various studies. We've got the McKinsey Women at Work or Women in the Workplace report. You've got Deloitte's Women at Work. Morgan Stanley has published a study on gender parity and its impact on shareholder value and performance. And we can see a theme here, which is in certain industries, there's far more of male presence than female, and then vice versa in other areas. We can also take a look at where education is going from a university and college perspective. We can see there, I've got a son at Virginia Tech in the College of Engineering. And, you know, first time I spoke with him when he was a freshman last year, I said, oh, mom's got to ask you, what's the male-female ratio in your classes? And he's like, handful of women, mom. And I'm like, oh, that's bad for you. And it's really bad for all the women, because when we went to the acceptance day, they had all the women engineer students featured and speaking. And I thought, oh, well, maybe things have changed. Well, I went back and looked at the statistics for I guess the latest accepted class at Virginia Tech Engineering, and it's 22% women. 22% women in engineering. I mean, out of all,
I'm surprised it's that high, frankly.
Yeah.
Well, but are we not though? And this is where I'm coming from, Rob, is are we not? And I've seen it with my kids, STEM subjects, the emphasis of STEM and girls in STEM and math. And I happen to have one girl that's a really, you know, big math person. My other girl is very much an artist, and so not so much math. And then my son, who is a great math person, but really interested in engineering. So we're going to have variety of interests always. But my math kids were very much supported by our curriculum in my county schools, and we're pursuing math related, you know, intensive items. So it was, you know, it was a little bit shocking to me, only because I've come from an environment, much like I did with Fleet, where Fleet seemed like it was pretty diverse on the trading desk, and then I go out into the real world and it's not, you know. So it might be some of that regional or geographical differences, but I do think there's still some bias. Then it would appear that either engineering's not very cool for gals. Why is that? But we see here in mortgage capital markets, we think there's a problem with understanding. So to Pat's point, the kind of advertising, let's talk to the legacy folks, the women that are that have been in this part of the industry for a while. Let's get them out talking to attract women. But I was talking with a young new recruit at a broker dealer, and I asked him, so, you know, tell me about, you know, gals in your class, you know, when you guys went through the recruitment process, what have you seen in your corresponding peers? And he's like, well, I don't even think we had a female apply lately.
Yeah, and that's really too bad. I just flashed back to uh, uh, the exact opposite situation. So so my mom went to Stanford and she graduated in 1944. Well, I have her senior class picture where everybody is, there's the whole picture of the whole class. And I think there's one guy, and it was an Asian fellow with like really thick glasses. And everybody else, the whole class had been gutted. They all went off to war to fight. And that was the reason for that. But you're right. When I think of an engineering class or a computer science class or math as a major, it seems like, and then capital markets events like capital markets in May in New York, that godforsaken Times Square Marriott, which it'll be at for the next 80 years. But anyway, that aside, sorry, I digress. There are a certain number of females there, but certainly it's interesting when you talk about a broker dealer, like did any females even apply? And why not?
So, yeah, I mean, Amy and I was in a room at a recent MCT event. So, and you mentioned MCT earlier about, as a corporate sponsor, what are they doing about it? I think of, white men. For people watching us at home who don't know me, I'm the chief strategy officer at MCT. And
I know.
yeah, and so I know but so it comes down to a word, is intention. And at our company, starting about 7 years ago, we wanted to be part of the solution and not contribute to this cycle. So we have a lot of intention about looking at our pay scales and making sure there's complete parity between genders. Looking at our marketing collateral and making sure that there's equal representation, creating pathways in the company for an advancement, intention about hiring. When we go to put out a new role, we make sure the pool is diverse before we hire. And actually interesting, last like 3 of our most recognizable hires recently were all women. They're thriving in their roles, and we didn't pick them because they were women. They were selected because of their criteria and their merit. And that was the intention we put into casting a wider net for these roles. So if you're sitting at home watching this and you're saying, what can we do? Framing it as being part of the solution is a really easy way to do it. No one's pointing a finger. Everyone just says, you know what? It's time that we better reflect the communities in which we work and serve.
My first 11, 12 years in the industry were in secondary, and I'm big on sarcasm. I used to always email people, I'm the white guy in the suit. Because back then there's been some progress made.
Totally.
But not nearly enough. The other thing I realized as a young professional, I, like most people, fell ass backwards in the secondary. And it did not take me long to figure it out. Like, oh my God, this is number one, interesting. Number two, it's mission critical to the success of the business. It's the financial guts of the business. And if I can kick ass at this, I can make some good money at a young age. And it's a great part of the industry to get into. When I talk to young people, that the very few that want to get in this industry or getting into this industry, my advice for them is always, like, if able, learn the capital markets first, because it is the guts, the infrastructure of the mortgage industry, helps you understand everything better after that. So it's so great to hear you guys with very tangible action plans. There's been a lot of groups in the mortgage industry over the years that we want to do this, we want to do that, and well-intended, but maybe not as much of like follow through and realistic action plans. And so things like college outreach, like working with your partners, some great ones you have, to develop educational material, the creation of a speakers bureau, all very realistic, tangible, achievable things that I think stand to really help you guys achieve your mission.
Yeah, and Rich, we're our main focus here in working with corporate sponsors to help fund us is that we do not want to be an organization that requires a really high membership fee. That kind of really flies in the face of providing education and outreach to others. If we are charging folks an exorbitant amount to be in the club, we do want to have a safe space for people. We want people to feel like they are not committed to something that is onerous. And if they decide, I'm just going to check in once in a while, that is fine. If you're somebody who really wants to learn and wants to network and wants mentorship, wants to build out just who you know and understand more, we welcome you with open arms, but play however you want to with us. But we are looking for our corporate sponsors to be the ones to generously fund this so that we can continue with what we want to have as a virtual education opportunity, so that anybody can, on their own time, much like what you're doing here, Rich, is, join if you can live, but if not, watch it later. And if you need to watch it a couple of times because, you really thought this was a great conversation, or, in our case, on the education side, because you need to hear something a couple of times to learn it, then you have that opportunity. The best thing about COVID, if there's a best thing, is I feel like it democratized work and study, because now you can employ all kinds of tools. But we do want to, in 2025, and again, this is with funding from sponsors, have an in-person event where we can have specific guest speakers. We can call them masterclass type of folks. We are that far in our career. We do have relationships with some of the most critical and pivotal people in mortgage capital markets, and we just need the funding to help create an event that would have a fee, of course, for attendance. But in the interim, we think there's a lot we can deliver virtually that is a low cost barrier to anybody and everybody who might be interested.
And we could actually be a feeder system into the CMB program that the MBA sponsors. So you could actually learn some of the basics, get some foundational understandings before you launch into that part. And perhaps by then your career, your bank or broker that you're working for can afford to send you to those classes. But it also takes down that barrier of cost of entry, cost of learning.
Yeah, really important.
So how does one join, support, be a part? You've mentioned a lot of different things that are going to be available to members that join, and also that people can kind of join at their pace, right? People who want to be hyper involved, or maybe just want to sign up, be a part of it, observe what's going on, and then dip their toe in. How do they do that?
Well, I did drop into the chat, and I hope I put it in the right place, our website. So feel free to come on over, take a look around. We've got a lot of videos there, so you can learn more about what we are and what we hope to do.
And real quick, because the chat doesn't show on our YouTube, it's CapitalWcollective.org. CapitalW.org. If you're listening on pod or watching the YouTube and they're like, what the hell are they talking about? It's CapitalWcollective.org.
Is .org the nonprofit?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
So is anything
And
with
also,
.org nonprofit?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that's pretty consistent.
Right.
And also, please find us on LinkedIn. We do a lot of publishing, and we'd love you to repost and like and comment and circulate your reactions to what we have there. Membership is free. There's no membership fee. Just come check out the website, follow us on LinkedIn, and as we develop additional content, we'll be promoting it so you'll know that you have access to it. And as we add corporate sponsors, we hope to build out a marketing engine as sophisticated as the big picture or the Chrisman commentary, where we have a very sophisticated CRM system that can promote and help us understand our user base a little bit more and what their needs are.
Right. And Leslie's going to be at the Western Secondary. So
Yeah.
by all means, please stop by and see her. Leslie, if you want to tell them.
Tyrannia.
Yeah. So I'll be sitting at the Mortgage Capital trading table, which is in the main hall outside where the meetings are taking place. And I would love to speak with any and all of you, and I'll be there on Monday and Tuesday.
And if you're listening to this or watching the YouTube and know a capital markets female professional, pass this information along to them. I think everybody that's interested enough in the mortgage industry to be listening or watching a show like this, we all know people I've referred a couple your way. I'm going to be referring more your way. But yeah, take a moment to do that, and would be great for the individual. I could tell you by just getting to know this group a little bit these past couple months, and so just something to think about if you're listening and know somebody.
And you don't have to be in capital markets. You could be a loan officer who's interested in understanding more. You could be in operations and want to know why what you do matters. What value does it bring? Anywhere you might be, or you don't even have to be in our industry. How about that? and come and take a look.
Yeah, and Rob and Rich, you too have become excellent allies for Capital W. You've already consistently been supportive. So if there are other people at home watching and listening, and you're a male, and we want you too, we want your allyship. So you're a very important part of this formula. So contact us and let's talk and let's figure out how we can help your companies and your people.
And we're seeing.
Rich,
Oh, go ahead, Rob.
you,
Sorry.
you could do something similar.
Oh no, did he freeze?
You could start something similar in the sports cards biz, right? I would imagine. I've never been to a trading card show, but I'm Rich. Aren't most of the people manning the booths white male?
Yes, although there has been bit now, it was even worse than mortgage. The old white guy factor in the sports cards and memorabilia industry. It has really undergone a metamorphosis really since the pandemic. A lot more young people, a lot more females, people of color. Like the National Sports Card Convention was just in Cleveland last week, and I've been going. I probably went to 10 or 15 of those, and it is great to see, like mortgage, some good progress, but so much more to do. But yeah, there are a lot of parallels to be sure. So
Yeah, I do support the organization. I liked hearing about it. Once again, thank you for your time in New York, telling Robbie and me about it. We came away from that meeting saying, yeah, this is cool. Which
we're
is about
the value this week of like why, capital markets professionals are so integral to organizations. We've talked about it, and Rob and I are biased because it's our background. But if you have great capital markets people, even with all this employment disruption that we've seen the last 2.5 years, maybe somewhere out of a job for a couple months, but like good capital markets people are always employed. It really is. It's unlike other segments of the business. It's a very unique skill set that companies, employers find, incredibly valuable, and all the more reason to, partner up and with Capital W and take part in some of the things they're doing. It is like, to Amy's point, if you're not in capital markets, it's knowledge is power. Diversify your skill set, add it to your LinkedIn profile. I mean, that stuff matters today so much more than it ever has. So excellent.
And definitely needed if you want to learn how does a mortgage company make money. You start with capital markets because that's where the money's at. Once you understand that piece of it, the rest of the parts fall into place.
As Rob knows, one of my favorite sayings, follow the money. It it applies to, everything. So what else? Capital W. Anything we didn't hit on? Anything you want to take our listeners and viewers home with about the organization, or ways they can participate, or anything?
Well, I'd say one more thing is you might be asking people listening in, why is Capital W different than some of the other groups like an Empower or other groups that already exist in the mortgage industry? And, there's not a group that's just focused on mortgage capital markets. So that's our differentiator. However, we will be plugging into the Empowers and to the CMB and to these other organizations to have like a network effect of all this positivity. But we started because it is unique, the capital markets aspect of it, and that differentiates us from an Empower and some of these other women in structured finance and, a lot of the other groups that are out there.
I love it. I love it. Well, great stuff. And it was great having you guys on, learning even more about your group and the plans. And I love it. Just very actionable stuff that stands to have really, really big impact in our industry. And to your guys' point, educate, empower,
Elevate.
elevate,
Elevate.
yes. And which is so needed in this industry. And I can tell you right now, this show and us, anything we could do to help support what you guys are doing, raise awareness, know we're going to do it. And yeah, I'm just thrilled with what you guys are doing, and it's sorely needed in our industry.
We're
Hats
grateful.
off.
Thank you for
Excellent.
your support.
And to our viewers and listeners, if you are listening on podcast or watching on YouTube, we do the show live every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And you can go to watchthebigpicture.com to find that. We're part of the Chrisman Commentary Network. There's really outstanding programming every day of the week, Monday through Friday. There's a great themed show every day. I know Sue Woodard just they started a regulatory and consulting program that got off to a great start this week. And you can find Chrisman Commentary on LinkedIn. You can find it on YouTube, and please go there and subscribe as well. So, but until next week, it was great having everybody on the show. Thank you once again, Rob.
Thank you very much.
Sophia. And to our viewers and listeners, have a great rest of the week, and we will see you next Tuesday at 3 Eastern. Have a great rest of the week and weekend, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.